Welcome back, everyone. My name is Ben, and this channel is dedicated to all things personal finance, helping you earn more, spend less, and invest the difference. So in today's topic, we're going to be talking about saving money. Now, they always say that time is money, so let's not waste any time. Let's get straight to the good stuff. So I tend to read a lot of articles, watch a lot of videos on personal finance, and some people have some off-the-wall ideas as far as what you should do in order to save some money. I'm not going to name any names, but I just got done watching a video from a guy who advocated that you should eat canned dog food because it was a cheap source of protein. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to eat dog food. Like, if it means that I have to work for an extra year before I'm able to retire, then so be it. I want real food. But it's more than just eating dog food. I think a lot of people have some terrible ideas when it comes to saving money. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. What's the number one thing that everybody says that you should do if you're trying to save money? Yeah, you don't even have to think about it. You already know the answer. The first thing everybody says is, you gotta make a budget. You gotta stick to it. But I think that budgeting is a terrible idea because budgeting tends to focus on the little things. And in doing so, I think it misses the bigger picture. Now, don't get me wrong, budgeting can work. Maybe it's worked for you, maybe it's worked for somebody that you know. But the problem with budgeting is it sucks. It's kind of like dieting. A diet can work, but you gotta stick with it. So as of today, it's March 1st, which means that more than likely all of you guys out there that made a New Year's resolution to get in shape and eat healthier, you've already given up. Why? Because it sucks. Dieting and going to the gym, unless that's your thing, that sucks. As soon as you create a budget, what are the first things that people say that you need to start cutting out? You can't eat out anymore. You can't go out with your friends anymore. You can't go to the movies anymore. You can't have that Monday morning cup of Starbucks anymore. Like, all the things that you actually enjoy doing, a budget tells you that you should stop. So not only is it not a lot of fun to do this because you actually enjoy spending money on these items, but how much money are you actually going to save by utilizing all of these techniques? So let's just say that you eat out twice. You go out and hang out with your friends, maybe 15 bucks a meal, so that's 30 bucks. And maybe you go out to a movie once a month, so there's 10 bucks. Maybe you go out to like a comedy show or something like that once a month, so there's 20 bucks. So I don't know what our total is up to, 50, 60 bucks, something like that. So if you just stop going out and stop hanging out with your friends and stop doing all the things that you enjoy doing, congratulations, you're gonna save 60 bucks a month. Now, who knows, maybe you are in dire financial situation where saving 60 bucks a month is something that you actually need to do. But chances are saving 60 bucks a month is not going to revolutionize your life anytime soon. Because when we start looking at the big picture items like saving for retirement, 60 bucks a month is not going to get you to where you want to be. So with most budgets, not only are we eliminating all of the things that we like doing, you can't go out to eat with your friends, you can't go watch movies with your friends, you basically have to do nothing but whatever free event is going on that weekend. So it's really hurting your social life, it's hurting your mental state of mind when it comes to just not enjoying life the way you should. But beyond that, it's also not saving you a lot of money. 60 bucks or 100 bucks or however much it is that you're able to save is not going to put you significantly closer to retirement anytime soon. So what should we do instead? So anybody who has actually created a budget before is very familiar with these pie charts that kind of allocate, what percentage of your money should go into each one of these categories. And then they typically focus, like I said, on the discretionary spending. So if we just take a look at this sample chart that I pulled online, your discretionary spending is somewhere between 5 and 10% of your income. And that means if you just eliminate all of your discretionary spending, you're still not going to save all that much money. When it comes to trying to save money, instead of looking at the little categories, we need to focus on the big picture. We need to see where the overwhelming majority of our money is being spent, and then we need to maximize those particular categories. And only once we have maximized those should we look at some of the littler categories to kind of fine tune and refine our process. So as I mentioned, this chart is going to have between 5 and 10% of the money going to discretionary spending. But if we look at housing, transportation, and food, that accounts for between 60 and 75% of our total budget. These are the three areas that we need to focus in on and try to save some money on these categories instead of trying to worry about going out to eat once or twice. So how can we save money on these big three categories? So let's start off by looking at housing, since that is typically people's number one expense. So a handful of years ago, when I started getting serious about personal finance, I went out and I bought my first house. It was a 3-bedroom place, and between the mortgage payment and the HOA, the total monthly bill came to $850 per month. So the first thing that I did is I went out and I got 2 roommates, and I charged them an average of about $500 per month. So not only did they cover my entire mortgage payment for me, but they also covered the electric bill. So the only thing that I had to do was cover the little stuff. Sewer, water, trash, cable TV if I wanted it, or internet, Netflix, just all the miscellaneous little things. And that was my entire living expenses because I had roommates that were offsetting the cost of my mortgage for me. So not only was I able to generate an extra $1,000 per month and thus save $1,000 a month, which is drastically more money that I could possibly save by cutting out 100% of my discretionary spending. So not only was I able to save a lot of money, but I also had a lot of fun doing it because nobody likes living in an empty house all by themselves. So by having roommates, I had somebody to talk to, there was stuff going on in the house, and it was honestly just more enjoyable than living by myself. So is getting a roommate a possibility? Or maybe you want to get a short-term thing and do like the Airbnb thing. Do you have a split-level apartment or house? Maybe you can just rent out the basement or the attic, depending on the layout of your house. That way you have a little bit more privacy, Or how about buying a duplex and living in one side and renting out the other to offset your mortgage cost? Would that be a possibility? Or what about just simply relocating to a slightly cheaper side of town? Or what about simply downsizing to a smaller house? If you're single, do you really need a 2 or 3 bedroom place? Everybody always likes to, have a spare bedroom and that kind of stuff for when friends or relatives come to town. But be honest, how much have you actually used your spare bedroom? How many times has company actually came over? So do you need a spare bedroom, or are you just overpaying for a bigger house that you don't need? And by having this extra room, then you also have to furnish that extra room. So that means you got to buy a bunch of crap just to put in that extra room, just so you can try to make it look like a nice house. Nobody likes to having, completely empty rooms. So not only are you now overpaying for your house because you're buying more house than you need, but you're also then filling it up with a bunch of extra furniture that, once again, you don't really need. So here's a sample apartment complex here in the town that I live in. And this apartment complex, as you can see, is pretty nice. It's on the upper end, scale of things. So just looking at the price difference between a 2-bedroom versus a 1-bedroom apartment, we're looking at about $300 per month difference between a 2 versus a 1-bedroom apartment. So with that in mind, do you really need that guest room? Is it worth $300 per month for the off chance that you might have a relative come to town? Or do you really need that entire spare bedroom dedicated to being your personal office space? For $300 a month, would you be able to go without a home office? Transportation. And this is one that always really bothers me because I think our cars, our vehicles, are one of the biggest silent killers that we have. It's estimated that new cars will depreciate will go down in value by roughly 60% of their total value within the first 5 years. That means if you went out and you bought a brand new car today, let's just say $20,000, and at the end of the 5 years, you have it completely paid off. By the time you pay interest on it, you would have paid $23,000 for this car, and by the time you paid it off, that car is actually only worth about $8,000. That means by the time you actually pay off your car, you will have essentially wasted $15,000. You paid $23,000 for a car that is now only worth $8,000. Recent 2018 statistics say that the average car payment for a new car is $530 per month, and if you're buying a used car, the average payment is $380 a month. That is ridiculously high. And if you have car payments like this, that means you have a loan, and that means your lender is going to require you to have full insurance coverage on your car. And insurance, as we all know, is ridiculously expensive, and it's a scam. So you're going to be paying them money every month, and then if you do have a claim and you do need them to help fix your car for whatever reason, they're going to try to nickel and dime you. They're going to try to give you as little money as possible to fix that car. So instead of buying, these big, expensive SUVs, trucks, new cars, whatever it is, I suggest buying something that's a little bit older. Something that's at least 5 or 6 years old. That way the majority of the depreciation has already happened, and now your car should be relatively stable in price simply because a working car in and of itself has value. So I drive a 2010 Ford Focus. It's nothing flashy, it's nothing spectacular, but it is cheap and it is reliable. This car had about 40,000 miles on it, and I was able to pick it up for a little under $7,500 total. With only having 40,000 miles on it, this car is going to last me a very, very long time. And so far I haven't had to put any money into it other than just routine oil changes. Instead of buying that new car, in about a year you could have completely paid off a car like this Ford Focus, and then you wouldn't have any monthly payments, and you would still have a reliable car to get you around town. So by eliminating this $530 a month car payment, how many times a month would you have to cut out eating out or going to movies or Starbucks? How much of that stuff would you have to cut out in order to save $530 a month? And our last category is going to be food, and you can lump in the dining out factor into this category. So yes, you can obviously save some money in that way, but besides that, there's some really expensive ways to eat at home too. It's not just eating out at these $10, $15, $20 per meal restaurants that can be killing you. There's some very expensive things at home that you can be making as well. Now, I'm not saying you got to go back to the old college days where it's nothing but ramen noodles, 99-cent Totino's pizza, and crappy frozen burritos, but things like steaks, fish, hamburger, roast beef, all that stuff is relatively expensive, even if made at home. So instead, you might try to think about slightly more plant-based meals. Things like whole grain pasta, potatoes, brown rice, salads, all of this stuff is extremely cheap, and it's actually pretty healthy for you as well. So instead of grilling yourself a double cheeseburger at the house, maybe you just have a single cheeseburger and a big old side of potatoes to go with it. So as you can see, by focusing on these bigger categories, potentially house hacking, getting some roommates, or renting out one side of a duplex, downsizing your house from a 3-bedroom to a 2, or from a 2 to a 1-bedroom, things like getting a slightly used car instead of a brand new car and saving that monthly payment, or just even the types of food that you cook at the house. By switching up these type of activities, you can save literally thousands of dollars. And that's going to be exponentially more money than you could ever hope to save by just cutting out, going out to eat with your friends, going out to movies, and just overall having fun and enjoying life. Because saving money is important, but so is having fun. Because if your budget doesn't allow you to have fun, then chances are you're not going to stick with it long term. And as a nice side bonus, you're probably not going to feel like a social outcast by doing it this way, as opposed to the normal way where you just can't go out with your friends anymore. So there you guys go, why I think budgeting is a terrible idea and why instead you should focus on where the majority of your money is going. You should maximize these categories before you even attempt to look at some of these smaller categories like your entertainment expenses. So if you found this video to be useful and insightful, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment down below. I have several new videos every week. And I'll see you all again next time. Thanks.